Welcome back to another year of the Great Guitar Build-Off. This is my second year of entry, so I'm going to step things up a little bit. Last year we did kind of a controller, Guitar Hero kind of vibe that was made to look more kind of painted, plasticky. This year I want to do something a little more natural and go for an original body shape and headstock design. So let's see what we can come up with, shall we? All right, first things first, we've got some spare mahogany lumber that I had laying around from last year. Go ahead and cut that into the appropriate sizes to make a body blank out of. Luckily I had the template already made ahead of time from a design I came up with over the past year. So I've got that and the neck slash headstock planned out. Thin that board down a little bit just to make sure that it'll fit through my planer. And then for my coup de grace piece that I got, which is a beautiful billet of quilted maple. It's a little too short to do a full neck out of, but I was planning on doing a scarf joint anyway, so we make that happen. And I also cut a small strip of it to put down the center of the body, which of course I needed to match with the neck, so I did it in inverse on the neck with the mahogany strip down the quilted maple neck. It's a thick slab of wood, so cutting through it took a little more time than I was anticipating. Thank goodness I purchased a table saw in the last year. Made this process much easier than if I'd been trying to do this all by hand. And I couldn't resist showing off, even at this stage, kind of what we had going. There's that body blank pieces with the maple down the middle. And at this point I hadn't yet cut the stripe for the mahogany for the neck, but I do have the billet cut out for the neck. So proud of myself. Now for some jointing. Now really I probably should have done the flat edge first, but I was just too excited to get going, so I did the short edge. Sorry for the lame tank top, but it was very hot when I was doing all this, and I just wanted to get some work done. I got a ton done on the first day, as you'll see by like a third or half of this video being me in that tank top. And then I've been kind of slowly working from then on. Now, as I discovered, the bed of my joiner is not quite wide enough to do those boards on the long flat edge, so I ended up taking off the guard, which I generally do not recommend for someone without a ton of experience, and probably not even for someone on my level, but I was very careful and immediately reattached it once I was done. And then out with the planer to kind of get these things milled down to a decent depth. I did plan ahead on how thick it was going to have to be once the top was attached, but even so, there may be some chambering involved in the body by the time we get to the end of this. We'll see before I glue down the top on it, kind of how we're feeling. And naturally, all of this milling process produces a lot of sawdust. I do not have a very good extraction system for all the dust in my shop, so here's me spending way too much time sweeping up and getting rid of all of the mess that I've made on day one of this project. And then it's time to glue up the body blank, make sure everything lines up, got some good joinery, which turned out just about perfect in my opinion. Thank goodness for good power tools. and clamp her down and leave to set overnight. Now I did clamp it upside down because I wanted the back side to look better than the front side if there was any difference, just because I knew that I was going to put a top on the front side. Now for the fun part, actually turn this blank into a guitar body. Tracing out over the template that I made. Going over to the bandsaw and making some magic happen. After that, it was just a case of routing around the template that I had, which I did in very shallow passes, particularly in the areas with end grain, because I've had trouble before with it catching and destroying body blanks and having to rethink things at that point. Now you may notice that the router bit doesn't quite make it up as far as the whole body blank because taller bits are sketchier, and I don't run one anyway. So I did as many passes as necessary to get it down with the template on, then pulled that template off after the fact, and switched bits to a top bearing bit to finish out the other part of it. And completed body for now. Next up, I've got my scarf joint jig that I built a few weeks ago. For any of you that have been following me on TikTok and /or Instagram, you may have seen my excitement when I got that neck jig finished. This is exactly why it's not an issue that the billet that I got is not quite long enough for a neck, because I was going to do the scarf joint anyway, so I can get 2 pieces. Luckily it was a 2-inch thick slab, so I just cut them into 1-inch thick pieces once I got the width of the neck needed, and I had everything I needed to do a neck. And then here we go, cutting that stripe for the center of the neck. Always be safe when you're using table saws, people. Not quite as scary as routers, but pretty darn close. And then it's time to cut the truss rod cavity while I've still got a straight edge on the side of that neck to line up a fence with. And then bandsaw out the neck after having traced it just like I did the body. I wasn't too worried about staying perpendicular here on the headstock because I knew I was going to be doing routing to get that finished up in the end. Just had to get close enough that the router could finish off the job. Yeah, it's very hot out there. It's like 10 o'clock at night and it's still over 100 degrees in the garage. Texas heat, y'all. There we go, routing, take 2.0. On this one I just went up to about the nut line when I was doing the body of the neck. Taking very shallow passes, especially down near the heel. Because with the figured wood like that especially, I had a feeling it was going to be more prone to grabbing and tearing, and that's a very expensive piece of wood to have to just toss out if something goes wrong. Now we get to the headstock. I taped down that portion of it, and this was a little bit sketchier because there wasn't as much surface area for that tape to hold, but by being very careful and taking, again, very shallow passes, we got everything routed back down to the necessary dimensions without incident. And even though the neck is thinner, once you put that thick old template on there, there was a little portion of the heel of the nut area that didn't quite get cut, so I had to take the template off and finish that part with just the router itself. Alright, I think we'll leave it there for this video. Boy, it's been a hot time trying to get all this done in 100+ degree weather days for the last few weeks. So even now I'm starting to sweat a little bit just recording this. But we've got a nice neck cutout, which may or may not end up having a cap on the headstock. Still thinking about that. And we've got the body shape cut out. I think on the next video we're going to try and get the body carved, put the top on it, get the routings for the neck bucket and pickups and control cavity, get the neck carved, put it all together and kind of see what it looks like before we start worrying about doing hardware and finishing and all that good stuff. I hope you guys are looking forward to it. I can't wait to get to the staining process because I've got something pretty gorgeous in mind. Definitely a step up from last year. See you guys next time.